Welcome back to Blatantly Honest with Michaela Nichols. Today I caught up with Sarah Hamel Smith, aka the Curvy Trini. She's a New York based TEDx presenter, plus size model, storyteller, and digital influencer represented by True Model Management. Sarah co founded Plus Amplified, an organization dedicated to educating and empowering those who live in plus size bodies. Today, she opens up about her own battle with body image, and more importantly, how she's been able to overcome that by inspiring others to feel confident in their own bodies. Welcome, Sarah. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's an absolute honor. We met in New York, and it's just been, I don't know, just following your career and everything you're doing is just very impressive. So thanks for being on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm always very excited to participate and to support, especially a program like yours, anti-bullying. I mean, it's so important. These conversations and these kinds of causes are just really, really important. So I feel really proud and happy to be here today with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Well, it's just like your career, like, girl, I literally Insta stalk you all the time. And I'm like, she is literally so fabulous. Like your posts, your messaging. I'm just like, dang, like this girl embodies everything that like I aspire to be, like aesthetically, fashion wise, everything. I'm just like, dang, like she has it made. Did you always feel like you had it made, or are you kind of like, I don't know, was your confidence always so present in everything that you did?
Not at all. So I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and where I'm from, they didn't have like clothing for people my size. So I spent most of my life dieting. I spent most of my life thinking that something was wrong with me. I was body shamed a lot by my family. I didn't realize that they had clothes to fit me until I was like 26. Like I began my journey into fashion at 26 years old when I found on Instagram, funny enough, the body positivity hashtag, the hashtag GoPo. And I just saw like all these plus size women in America and all over the world wearing beautiful clothes. And I was like, hold on, they have clothes for people my size, you know? And I think that that's something that happens to a lot of plus size people. We treat our bodies like they're transients, and we'll be like, oh, like when I lose 20, 30, 40 pounds, then I'll shop, then I'll buy something for myself, then I'll look beautiful or put effort into my appearance. But I just had this huge like aha awakening moment when I saw all of those women. I was like, those women look hot. They look amazing. And they're like the same size as me, bigger than me, and they look beautiful. And I was like, and I can too, you know?
That's so well said. And I think it's so interesting that you found like that hashtag of all things.
Yeah.
Just kind of like connects. And I'm sure you're like, oh my God, like how did I miss this? What is this? I mean, from that moment in which you found that hashtag, we're like, wow, like these women are hot and they're beautiful and they're so confident. Where was the transition between you seeing that and you saying like, I want to be a model?
So like in that moment, I was just kind of like, first of all, one, there's nothing wrong with me. Like my body is good just the way that it is. And I started to dress a lot more fashionably and kind of immerse myself in the fashion world and play with fashion. I started to realize like I could wear more than a black dress. I was working in a corporate job that I worked at for 6 years in energy corporate communications. And I got laid off. The company ended up folding. And I was kind of like, what am I going to do with my life? But I always felt like I had some kind of purpose. Like I wanted to help empower people, especially after I had that own kind of aha moment within myself. But I didn't know like how I was gonna do it. So I came to New York to visit a friend, and I was like, oh my God, I want to live here. That was the first time in my life that I just saw so many different diverse people really expressing themselves and living their truth. And it was just such a wonderful experience for me. And I was like, I need to live here. Um Actually, it's a funny story. I Have you ever heard of House of Yes?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. So I went to an event at House of Yes, and we were like in the holding area waiting to go in to see one of the performances. And this guy came up to me, and he was dressed from head to toe in a costume. like a onesie that was tie-dye, right? And he was carrying a golden goose. And he walked straight up to me, looks at me in my eyes without saying anything. Then he put the goose on the floor, knelt down in front of me, and worshipped me and said, "I love your shoes."
I don't even know like what to say to that, because
Michaela, that was the moment that I decided I wanted to live in New York. Like literally, like it was like that exact moment that I was like, I need to live here. Like this is just completely. I mean, Trinidad is like pretty conservative in many ways. Like I was just like, wow, like this is where I need to live.
What just happened? I love it.
What just happened? So I kept coming back and forth. I was doing courses at NYU, different communications courses, applying for jobs in New York, working in PR, and that kind of field. And at one of my courses, a woman came in to speak to the class about something called influencer marketing, which is something that I had never heard of before. So literally she comes in, I raised my hand and I was like, "Do you guys use plus sized influencers?" And the lady says, "Of course, you should be an influencer." And the whole class turned around and screamed at me, "Sarah, you should be an influencer."
Wow.
So I went downstairs and I looked up at the sky and I was like, "Universe, if this is what you want for me, then you need to show me the way." And
then it did.
And it did. And through a series of strange and magical events, I started my Instagram. I started to build a following there. And then I was at this fashion event called the Curvy Con. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's kind of like Comic-Con, but for plus size fashion and plus size people.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and I was walking up the stairs, and that's where I met Dale Noel.
Love Dale. Oh my God.
One of the most magical humans in the world. How did you meet Dale?
Oh my goodness. I met Dale through my old manager, and just meeting Dale like changed my life. Like she is like I call her like a magical unicorn, because she's literally like not, I don't even like think she's like a human. She's just like,
she's ethereal.
Yeah, 100%. Like she's just, I don't know. I've never met someone like Dale. So I'm with you 100%. For those of you who are listening and don't know Dale, if you meet Dale, you will know exactly what we're talking about, because she is just that awesome.
She is the definition of an empowerer. She's one of those people that really, really lives her life trying to help other people achieve their dreams. And she's incredible, incredible. So yeah, I met her on the staircase and we ended up chatting, and I was telling her that I wanted to move to New York and I was looking for an agent, and she was like, "Well, come in on Monday and let me measure you and let's see what we can do." And the rest is history. I ended up getting my work visa. Everybody back home was like, "You're never going to get a work visa. You're never going to be able to move to New York." And especially, funny enough, after being bullied and body shamed for most of my life, being told that I was fat and unattractive and this and that and the other, to then move to New York to be a model was like this crazy, crazy, crazy thing at like 30 years old. My husband and I, we have a home, we have a property in Trinidad. And it just like at 30, I'm like, "Okay, Rory, we're moving to New York." And he's like, "What?"
What are you talking? Oh my God. I can imagine like the shock. I'm sure like not only was he like, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you," but also like, what? Like, how?
Yeah. It was a very, very crazy thing, but it was just something in my soul. And I felt like I needed to be in New York to do this work. I saw this movement taking place here where people were starting to really embrace their bodies and starting to just come together and form all these little communities. And I believe that a lot of the big ideas start in New York and then they reverberate throughout the world. I'm a big believer in that. I just feel like a lot of things that you see happening, a lot of it starts in New York City. And I just wanted to use my life and serve as a tool to help empower other people to understand that our bodies are good just the way that they are. I suffered so much growing up, and I really want to be one of the people who helps change the way that we define beauty in society. And that's why I came here. And that's what all the work that I do is centered and focused on.
Wow.
Comes back to that.
So powerful. And I think, well, like you said, like that's why you do what you do. It's why you're focused on that line of work. And I think, your line of work doesn't necessarily, it's not something that you look for. I think it finds you. And I think
Absolutely.
by you moving to New York and taking part in these incredible movements, it's like, this is what I was meant to do. Like the universe spoke, it showed you the way. And it's like, all right, now your turn. What are you going to do with it? And I think
Absolutely.
that says everything. It says everything about you. It says everything about your line of work. Let's go back a little bit and talk about, because you mentioned like the bullying and the body image. What did that look like and how did that impact you just mentally?
So one of the first times that I realized that there was something quote unquote wrong by society standards with my body, when I was like between 11 or 12, that kind of age, my uncle came over and he pulled me aside and he's like, come here. So I go, and he's basically told me that fat girls are only good to sleep with. And if I didn't lose weight, that nobody would want to marry me. And I needed to lose weight in order to basically be attractive to the opposite sex and be able to have a good life. That's basically what he told me when I was like 11 or 12 years old. And, I was pressured a lot by my family because I was bigger. I'm actually adopted. Me and my sister are both adopted. And my mom is a very petite woman, so she never really like struggled with her weight. So it really like bothered her that I was overweight. And when I was like 13, between like 13 or 14, I lost a lot of weight and everyone was very proud of me, but I was also anorexic and bulimic. I used to, I spent the night by one of my friends and she taught me about bulimia, that you could eat anything you want and not get fat and lose weight. You just have to throw up everything you eat. So I would do that. And then I started to get tired of throwing up. So I would not eat. I would do like little challenges with myself and see how long I could go without eating. And so much so that I literally used to faint in school during assembly. And me and my friend at lunchtime, we would play a game and see who could eat. Like we play a game where we talk about like all the things that we would eat if it wouldn't make us fat. That's how sick it was.
Oh my
Like
God.
that's how sick it was. And just being a teenager, like you want whoever you're attracted to like you. You want boys to like you. No boys ever liked me because I was plus sized, and just a lot of like really hard things. But the messed up thing is like I always had like a lot of friends and I was always involved in different things. I used to sing, I used to this and that. But I was mostly bullied by my family more than anybody else about my weight. And it was only in my adult life later on that I actually realized like my family was trying to protect me. They weren't telling me those things because they were trying to hurt me. They were telling me those things because that's what society believes. And they were trying to prevent me from having the kind of negative experiences that people who live in plus size bodies have. They're like, we rather shame you than have the world shame you. So, I really, really struggled. Like every time we went shopping, my mother would scream at me, "You're fat, nothing fits you." I would cry, I wouldn't get anything. And like I said, it wasn't until I was 25 or 26 years old and I found those women on Instagram. And I was like, I need to be one of these women. I need to shout it from the rooftops and tell everybody, like, we're all good and worthy just the way that we are. And our bodies are all good and worthy.
Wow. Wow. I'm just processing everything that you just said because I cannot imagine like, and you brought up the point that your family was trying to protect you. And I'm
They
sure
were.
it's like during the time it feels like they're against you and all that stuff. I mean, I was also anorexic and bulimic and like to this day, I mean, I still struggle with stuff like, and it never fully leaves you, like it
No,
never, the body dysmorphia that comes with it and being told you're not this, you're not this, you're not like, it messes you up quite frankly.
it does. It
And
does.
And no one talks about that. And it's like,
No.
here you are, you're proving everyone wrong. You're proving that, this is just some made up standard, because I don't understand. This is a made up fashion standard. It's a made up standard of beauty. And here's another thing that I think is kind of food for thought. I'm curious to see your opinion. There's like the straight size model, and then there's the plus size model, and then there's kind of this middle ground.
Right.
What do you think? Because I feel like the middle ground is not a market that's tapped into. And I'm like, well, we're leaving out other men and women in that area too. Like, I feel like it's this gray area and then plus size. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how can the fashion industry do better to be more inclusive of everyone and not just like the two opposites, so to speak?
Well, I mean, I can speak mostly about plus size fashion and give like a little history of that. And then there's, like you said, they're the in-betweeners that are just totally ignored. So for many, many years, they would only fit clothing on straight sized people and then grade up for plus size. So nothing ever fits, you know? I think that really embracing the fact that human beings come in all shapes and sizes, none of them are more good or better than the other. It's just a fact. And then creating clothing for everybody of all different shapes and sizes. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, who decided that if you aren't below a certain size or you're bigger than a certain size, that you don't deserve to have clothing to wear on your body? What
Yeah.
kind of madness is that? What kind of madness is that? And it is really difficult for those that fall in the in between category, because I have some girlfriends that fall in that category and they're like, well, I'm not small enough for this and I'm not big enough for that. And nobody makes clothes for me, you know?
Yep, my friends have the same problem. And another thing, I've had conversations with other plus size models, and they're like, I feel the need to be bigger. And I'm
Yes,
like, why can't we all just accept each other regardless? Like, why is it like you have to be at least this size for this? And it's like,
exactly.
and then it's unhealthy to force people to get into these standards that they are not naturally in. I don't know. It blows my mind. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, have you ever felt the need to either put on more weight to like meet the industry standard, or have you just been like, this is where I'm at and I refuse to budge?
So when I first started modeling, I do fit modeling as well. So they want you to be these certain proportions that are more standard. And I tried, like, my bottom and my legs are not as cushiony as some other bodies are. And I tried to make my legs get bigger and my bottom get bigger, but then my waist would get bigger and my boobs would get bigger. And I'm like, but this isn't working. And then I just reached a point where I was like, you know what? This is my body. The right brands I'm going to be a fit for, and the wrong brands. Because when you have in the past, as I'm sure you know, struggled with eating disorders and these kinds of things, like, that kind of stuff can be really, really triggering. And I found myself kind of like going back into that syndrome of like the constant measuring and the obsessing about like what am I eating and all of that. And I was just like, this isn't good for my mental health. So I'm not doing it anymore, you
No,
know?
you can't. Like, I mean, even like now, like I literally developed like panic attacks. Like I get panic attacks literally if it's like around a mealtime, like right now, super anxious for no reason, but it's like psychological that it's like, all right, now is kind of like an eating time. Did I eat? And it's like, I'm so far removed from that. But like if someone is like, hey, let's measure you, or hey, jump on the scale. I mean, that to this day messes with me like bad, and it's scary because like just when you think you're okay, you think you're not going to be triggered, and boom, something happens. And it's like
Absolutely.
these women, and especially the kids, like let's just talk about kids for a moment. I mean, Instagram, good lord, like thank god there's people that are like, I'm not going to edit this is me, here's why I'm posting this. But then you see this stuff and it's like everything is so edited, and it's like all these kids think they need to be like this tiny little person with really big boobs and like the Kim K butt, but
And
like
like really big eyes and like
yeah,
perfect skin and
yeah, and like Ariana Grande hair, nothing against her, but like all this stuff. And it's like, what is social media doing to these kids? Like, is it are they teaching them to be like, hey, just own the skin you're in? Or is it more like, you need to look like this? And it's people not even in the industry. It's just your everyday person. And that's what scares me.
Absolutely. I think it's probably very difficult and kind of terrifying to be a young person in today's world. And I believe that social media can be used for good or it can be used for evil. Maybe not evil, maybe evil is a dramatic word, but
Not good, not good
it
stuff.
can be a space where that makes you feel good and happy, and it can be a space that really drags you down and suffocates you. And I'm a big proponent of only following content and following creators that make me feel good. And that's one good thing about social media, in a sense, is like you can actually actively control what you put in front of your face, what you expose yourself to. Um, I think that now it's more important than ever. The kind of work that I do, I'm actually the co-founder of an organization called Plus Amplified, where we provide practical tools to help empower plus size people to thrive. Um, and I think that something that, we've really moved towards diversity and inclusivity has become more and more important in businesses, in media, in everything. But I do think that a component that is lacking is size diversity. You only ever see plus size people portrayed in these kind of like pathetic roles. The plus size girl is always like the loser that nobody wants to date. And the plus size guy is always the funny one, and no girls want it. And it's just not true. And, I think that that's something that is really important, is showcasing all kinds of bodies in the media, all kinds of races, all kinds of sexualities as being normal, happy, and desirable. Because at the end of the day, that's the truth of the matter.
100%. Wow, so well said. And that's something that doesn't get brought up often. I mean, like, even on that just made me think to, like, the TV and anchors and stuff. It's like, you're right. You're so right. It's not diverse and it's not inclusive. And,
No.
Even with just companies in general, I mean, people just need to, I don't know what made us as human beings, like, if this doesn't fit our mold, it's not accepted. And I mean, it could even go to the same thing of, like, people of different colors and ethnicities and, languages. And it's like, why are we treating, like, the end of the day, like, we're all living and then we die. And, we're all,
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter, like, we're all buried the same way. Some, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? But like, we all die.
Absolutely.
Like, it doesn't, you can't go out of this world better than someone else because XYZ. And I think we forget that. I think we've made this like social hierarchy of what a standard should be. And if it's not there, then it doesn't meet it. And then those people are less. So with that, and with this platform you started, what do you hope to achieve to grow that inclusivity?
I mean, what I hope to achieve through my platform is to just provide a little space on the internet that makes somebody feel a little bit better about themselves. Like that's all I want. And to, through the work with Plus Amplified, to really amplify plus size voices, have plus size stories be told, provide a platform for that to happen, where real stories are being told instead of these made up stereotypical stories, just real stories. And to me, that's the power of the internet. We can use it for whatever we want to. Everyday people like you and me can have a voice, can say, hey, like, this is not what it actually is, or this is how I think it should be, and find other people all over the world that are like us. I think that the internet can be such a dark and scary place sometimes. And through the work that I do, that's really all that I seek to do, is to create a space that empowers others. I hope that a random person scrolling on my page can find a little bit of enlightenment, whether it's in seeing a non-traditional body wearing something that is, I want people to look at my page and be like, oh, like, if Sarah can wear that, I can wear that. Or read something in my page and be like, okay, like, I'm not the only one that's fighting this battle, whether it be with mental health, my body, whatever it is, whatever you're facing. Sometimes it's nice to know that you're not alone.
It is. It's nice to know that you're not alone. And I feel like, in the society, especially with COVID, like we all truly feel alone. I mean, the suicide numbers, it's not released yet, but like these numbers are going up just from conversations I'm having. And it's devastating because I think the fact of the matter is we all feel so isolated. We feel alone. We feel like we have to latch out on social media. And despite, all the restrictions and all these things, we see people only posting the best versions of themselves. And they're like, I feel so low. That's not me. I'm not accepted. I don't belong here. And it's devastating because we need to not feel alone, because if we do, really bad things can happen. So I'd like to ask you about this one particular word that people associate with plus size models. I'm just going to say it's the F word, right? So the F word, what do you have to say to people who hear plus size and immediately say the F word? Because
The F word.
the F
So we've actually done 2 series at our organizations called Reclaiming the F Word. And for those of you who haven't picked up yet, the F word is fat. It's funny. Sometimes you deal with like internet trolls. They come up and they say things. And a while ago, someone came onto my post and was like, "You're looking really fat." And I was like, "Hi, that's the point." That's the point. For me, like, fat has been used as this word to like demonize people and make people feel so bad. Like the nastiest, most horrible, ugly thing a person could be is fat. But fat is really just a describing word. Just like you'd be like, Michaela has brown hair, Sarah has blonde hair. Sarah's fat. It's just a word. It's just, and I feel like taking back ownership of that word and not allowing it to be something that triggers you or that devastates you. Like for me, when I was younger, if someone called me fat, I would go in my room and sob for like 12 hours. But what I've realized over time is that when it comes to anything in life, we are the ones who can control how we respond to things and how we interpret things. And 95% of what other people do is because of them, not because of you. That's been one of the biggest truths I've ever learned, is to not take things personally.
You can't. And I think it's awesome that you're like, let's reclaim that word, because people do use that word to be derogatory in some sense. And you're like, but it doesn't have to be. And I always say, life isn't what happens to you, like you said, it's how you respond and react to it. And if you take that power away from them, then you're like, actually, like, I like that word, and you're like, I feel confident with that. And like, that's what it should be. It shouldn't be used to make people feel less, because they're not less. There's just words to describing things, like brown hair, be like, oh my god, I have brown hair.
Right.
What?
And there's so many people in the world that are suffering. I was one of them. And our bodies are where we live. This is our address on this planet. This is a place where our souls reside. Our bodies do so much for us every day. Things that we don't even think about. Processing air, processing food, like so many miraculous things our bodies do for us. And if I could just tell the world one thing, it would just be like, just live in your body just the way that it is. Stop trying to change it. Just for a moment, just really sit in your body and think about what a miracle it is to be alive.
It truly is a miracle to be alive and to just be in these vessels, so to speak, to get us, through life and through everything. And we're not as appreciative. I think, people who have been, had eating disorders or been through trauma, I think we really realize they're like, I am strong. Like, I am all these things. Like, if I can get through that and overcome that, then I can overcome anything. And
Absolutely.
This body is going to help me get through it. Like, it gets me from A to B. It helps me do all these things that we don't even think about: breathing, talking, our hearts, like all of it. And it's time we start to respect our bodies more. I agree.
Absolutely.
You've done TED Talks and so many other things and worked for so amazing, incredible companies. What can people, wow, what can people, that's not a word. What can people expect from people? Let's be honest, people. What can people expect from you next? Are you working on anything in particular that you can share?
Sure. So right now I'm diving headfirst with my co-founders into developing Plus Amplified. As soon as is humanly possible, we're going to be doing in-person events, mindset transformation workshops, you know, and we would love to take them nationally at some point as well. You know, me and my co-founders has realized it's not just the people, it's like in New York, people like pretty much know that they're awesome, right? I feel like most New Yorkers kind of like, you know, all the empowered
Got a
ones
style.
come here. But in the rest of the United States, you know, there are people that really are still struggling, and something that we take for granted is brand new content for them. So that's something that is a project that's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm hoping to really take on the road as soon as it's humanly possible, because of course we can do work online and that's great, but everything being in person is so much more powerful as well. You know, you can really connect with people, and if they share something that's a little tough, it's always nice to get a hug after, right?
Oh, God, I can't wait to hug people in person. Good Lord. Like, I'm such a hugger. I'm like,
Me
let me
too.
hug everyone. Let me hug
Hugs
everyone
are
again.
very healing, very healing. And I
Definitely.
also just continue to, you know, I started a cooking series called Cooking with the Curvy Trini, where I just, you know, produce all sorts of little fun episodes of food and teaching people. I feel like so many people use food as a form of punishment, but food can also be such a wonderful way to celebrate life and to share and to connect with other people. And yeah, just keep fighting the good fights and putting myself where I can put myself.
I'm well said. Well, I
Spread
have,
the message.
yeah, I have to check out that show because I'm always looking for like new recipes and all that. So I'm like, yes, girl, like teach me how to cook. God knows I need it. I don't know how to cook. So checking that out for sure.
Awesome. Be bold, be you, and be blatantly honest.